1321.
Keep it 5.
Yeah, it is. Thank you very much.
Bench, Your Honor.
We've got some business to take care of first.
We
We'll
have
take
to
care of it
open the
in a minute.
meeting.
The answer is no.
Be patient, Mr. Ming.
Are we up and running?
We are now, yes.
All right, we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I don't see that we've got any minutes to review.
Well, we do.
We
And
do?
we put them up, there was a mistake on the timing of these, but they were put up today, October 18th. They're only 2 pages.
Okay, well,
Pretty straightforward. It's up to you
We'll
whether
see
you
as how
want
they
to.
just came up today. I'll entertain a motion to table until the next meeting so we can have a chance to properly review.
So moved.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I need a
Who's the
second.
second?
Second.
Wayne?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Regular business. Before we get going, I'd like to appoint Henry as the sitting member on this, I'm appointing you as a member. You're the alternate, so we don't have, whoops, we have.
We do.
Yeah,
we
we do.
do.
Hi, James.
I was premature, sorry. All right,
That's okay.
regular business. Michael Mangan, continuation of a public hearing for an application for variance from section 32-87 setbacks and sections 32-89 dimensions tables requested by Michael Mangan to permit the building of a 27 by 18 structure for personal use with storage for tenants and owner on the lower level and a multi-purpose space for tenant owner to do arts, crafts, play music, for example, that has a 16-foot setback on from Washington Street property line where 25 feet is required. The property is located at 10 Nichols Ave, tax map U2, lot 237 in the R3 zone. With that being said, now you're on.
May I
Yes.
approach the bench? I want to give you.
Here you go, Jim.
Okay, so the revision really, and I appreciate you letting me come back and make a stronger argument for the unnecessary hardship. I think that was the main spot, the weakness in this application. So I thought about what y'all said, and the proposed plan is the one with the blue structure on it. So this is what I'm proposing. This is what I'm seeking the variance. So instead of a 25-foot setback, I'm seeking a 16-foot. Right? So if I am unable to get the variance, then alternatively, if you flip to the other side, I can do this. I can have the building situated outside of the setbacks, and that's where you see the red right there. So that's possible. Where you see alternative plan. Mm-hmm. So what that would really require me to do is to use an existing parking lot, at least 2 or 3 spaces. And then behind that is an area that I have that's used by the tenants for recreation. They have a barbecue there. I have a very nice, I spent almost $2,500 to put pavers there. So if the building is there, it would include that recreation area. It would also threaten a nice cedar tree that's there. I had the contractor come, and he said it would be very hard to get to build in that spot without disrupting the roots of that tree. So, and also, I'd have to replace the parking spaces that are being taken up, which I can, and this is the gray area that you see over here. That's outside of setbacks, and I could recapture those parking spaces there. The problem is that if I relocate the building here, then it's taking up parking spaces, and it's also possibly threatening the cedar tree. It's blocking a recreation area that's used by tenants. So I would have to relocate the parking over here. And this is currently open space right here. It's pervious ground that's important for stormwater. And probably most importantly, because I think this, at least in part the spirit of the variance is to have open space and so forth that's and buildings located in this place is not offensive to your neighbors. So the butters here, Amanda Frick owns a place, and I've come to know them over the last couple of years. They've done a lot of improvements to that place. So they approached me and said, I really prefer not to have parking there because they would be looking directly at it. And so, the unnecessary hardship, in my view, is that I would have to legally use this currently open space for parking, and it would take away recreational use for tenants. So that might have to take place over here too. And it would threaten the tree, and I think alternatively, if I get the variance, I get 9 feet. I get some variance that gives me that 9 feet that I could build it over here. Nobody's complaining about this. There's been nobody that's complained about this plan whatsoever. There has been people that objected to the parking being over here. So I think somebody mentioned this, the 500-year-old tree. I would think that this open space over here, in my direct line of sight to my neighbors, I think that's the 500-year-old tree that you guys brought up. That is, if I have to build here, then there's going to have to changes made over here. That's gonna, it's going to be undesirable. It's undesirable for me. It's undesirable for the neighbor. And I rewrote this variance application to kind of reflect that.
That's a large ash tree.
Well, there's a large ash tree. If we're looking at where it says the proposed plan, this is Nichols Ave, this is Washington. There's a large ash tree here, but there's also a cedar tree. It's a little hard to see, but you can see where right here it says a cedar tree, and this would be pretty close to that tree. And I was told by the contractor, because they have to dig like 4 feet from 2 to 4 feet from the foundation, then it may be that they would disturb the roots of the tree. And I don't really want to do that. I want to preserve the trees on the property as is.
You say that tree is 500 years of age?
No. There was a mention made that if there was some 500-year-old tree on this property, such that if I was given a variance, it would allow the preservation of that tree, then that would be it would be an unnecessary hardship to have to remove the tree to build what I want to build. So that it was sort of a figure of speech, I believe. Somebody mentioned that.
It was discussed to basically elucidate a concept that if there was something specifically unique to the parcel that creates the hardship, and a 500-year-old elm tree or something like that might fit that category. So that's what we were talking about, just in general, to flesh out the unnecessary hardship.
So the alternative to not being granted the variance and building over here, it would mean that I would have to relocate current parking over here, where the space is now open. There's pervious ground there. It supports the absorption of stormwater, and it's in direct line of sight to my neighbors. And they asked me, please, not to have any parking there, even though it's legal for me to have parking there. I don't want it, but I really have no other place on the property to replace the parking if I have to build here. So,
How do you get into it? 10 feet wide. You can't get in there. Just not-
so there's, in my view, there's a number of different points where it's creating a hardship that would, I think, that are unnecessary if the variance is granted. And granting the variance would not be contrary to the spirit of the variance, because whereas not granting it and basically forcing me to build here, because there's no other place that I can build anything, then already my neighbors have objected to any sort of parking there. So that would seem to contradict the spirit of the variance, which is to preserve sort of the current look and feel of the neighborhood and be bothersome to the neighbors. So out of consideration to them, I would prefer not to myself. Okay?
Thank you.
Yeah.
I got a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Should I sit down?
No, you can.
Okay.
So on the alternative plan, on the alternative plan,
Mm-hmm.
for the parking, you have the proposed parking on the alternative, right?
Yep.
That gray spot.
Yeah.
I know that it's not 100% to scale, probably, but it's hard to see what the scale is. Do you happen to know like how wide that is?
I believe it's from the house to the 15-foot rear setback. I think it's 18 feet. I think it's approximately enough space for two. I don't know, for 1.5, maybe 2 legal.
Can I clarify that for the board, if I may? Currently, this proposed parking layout for the alternative plan doesn't meet our current site review requirements because of a couple of things. Your parking spaces need to be at least 9 feet by 18 feet in size. You have 4 units, so technically, well, you'd have some space over here. I don't know how many spaces you could fit there, but you don't have enough length. You only have about less than 15 feet to the width of that area. The other thing is there's a requirement that you cannot locate your parking aisles and your parking spaces within the setback. So I don't know how you're going to get into those parking spaces other than doing, one on top of another, kind of stacked parking, which isn't, again, each parking space has to have its own access way. And also just, from a turning radius standpoint, it really doesn't work. There's not enough turning radius to move a car around that circle there to really get in there. So the current layout as you've proposed really doesn't meet our site review requirements. And I just wanted to point that out to the board.
Yeah, this is something that I put together. I've committed so much money to this with the survey and everything else. It's not to scale, but the concept is that I'd have to relocate the parking spaces that are being taken up by the structure somewhere, wherever that might be, and that's the only place that they could go. However that would play out, in an actual plan, that's where they would go.
So I think in my opinion, it kind of leads more to.
I'm sorry,
Can you speak up, please?
So it kind of leads more into the fact that there's less options for him, right?
Correct.
It just goes to continue to prove the point that there's less options.
Before we have too much more discussion amongst the board members, I'd like to open up the hearing to public input session. If there's anyone out there that would like to talk, now's your time. Just step right up and we'll listen.
You want to talk about anything?
No.
Within reason.
Within reason.
We won't talk about the Red Sox because they're not playing. All right. Not seeing.
There's a lot I could talk about.
We all could, I think. Do you have anything germane to the topic tonight?
Well,
Can you give us your name and address?
Now, and you live by
Can,
yourself.
can you approach the mic so we get it all on?
Sure.
And I need your name and address.
She's not in the butter.
It's okay.
I just.
My name is Adrian Rubino. Live at 71 Grant Road, Newmarket. Been here for quite a few years, like 55, I think, since 1970. Now that I'm a senior citizen, and we have these orange garbage bags. They're way too big for one person. Can't we get an orange?
This isn't the format for that. This is not a public hearing for that. This is a public hearing for Mr. Mangan to present his case, to use his parcel as he sees fit. So,
Well, you didn't tell me what to talk about. You
Well,
told me I
that's
could
fine.
talk about anything.
It's got to be pertaining to the
Oh.
parcel on Nichols Ave,
Okay,
and that parcel in particular.
well, I can't add to that. Nichols Ave is far from me,
All right. Well, thank you.
okay?
But you're welcome to come and sit in a town council meeting.
Is that when I
She's here for you.
make all my grief too?
That's absolutely. Sorry, Steve. All right, with that being said, I'm going to close the public input session and open it up to the board for discussion. And Henry, you're welcome to participate in the discussion. We just can't have you voting on it, that's all.
Yes, I understand. Thank you.
You're welcome. So,
Do you have any maps of the addition going next to my property as an abutter?
we do,
Yeah.
Could I take a look at those?
when it's his turn to speak.
Okay. I didn't know who he was.
Well, I was just gonna make a comment, Mr. Mangan, in criterion, let me think. 2 and criterion 3, you state that,
if I can't build where I've shown here, then I've got to figure out some other way to do it. And this is the alternative. And this is, all subject to building permits and all that kind of stuff. But I would necessarily need to locate it here because there's no other place I could do that. So what I mean by that is that I've spoken with my neighbors, and they have said, please don't have parking here. I don't want to have parking there. I don't want to upset them. But if I build here, I'm going to have to figure out some other way to have the tenants park. I don't know exactly what that would look like, but that's the only spot. And I've run this by a couple of people, Diane and the current interim building official. And the current interim building official said, there's nothing legal that says I can't put parking there. But I don't want to because I don't want to upset my neighbors. So I think, in my view, the variance is in place for the betterment of the community and the people that live in certain parts of it. And so having this as an alternative spot for parking already is running contrary to what I think the spirit of the ordinance is, which is to allow for open space, allow for people to live in an area that's pleasing to the eye, and putting something here already is evidently against the wishes of my neighbor. And so I think whereas as initially proposed, nobody spoke out against having the structure here. This is for what I seek the variance. Nobody has an objection to this, and there's a lot of abutters around here. Nobody came forward and opposed it. Whereas my neighbors I've spoken with, they would prefer not to have any sort of cars.
I understand, but the fact that your neighbors request that you not do that doesn't mean it's contrary to the spirit of the ordinance.
Correct.
That doesn't follow.
What is the purpose of the ordinance then?
The purpose of the,
It's written into the municipal code, 3287. It says the purpose of the ordinance is to maintain availability of space for site amenities such as landscaping, driveways, green space, etc. It's on the website.
To maintain that, right? Is that what you just said?
yes.
So I cannot maintain that green space if I'm going to have parking on it. I prefer to maintain that green space there. Personally, and my neighbors would prefer me to maintain that green space there as well.
I'm sympathetic to your discussion about the neighbors. I think that's important. But our obligation, one of our considerations as a ZBA is not what a neighbor would like or not like. We're bound by our codes, and we've presented an alternative, maybe questionably on the parking, I'm not sure about that, but you've presented an alternative that complies with our codes, and that's really about as far as I know, that's about as far as we can go. Neighborhood considerations and so forth, and not property.
Can I ask a question with that? So when it comes to the fact that it would take away from parking, isn't there an acceptable parking that would have to come with that proposal of the structure, or no?
Unfortunately, it's a grandfathered parcel. There are 4 units on that lot. the lot isn't large enough for 4 units because it doesn't meet the density requirements. However, it was in existence probably back in early 1900s, Mike. So it was in existence as a multifamily prior to the adoption of our current zoning ordinance. So in order to, it is non-conforming, it doesn't meet the current zoning.
So it doesn't have to, so with this proposal, it doesn't have to, according to the,
You can't make it more non-conforming. Any changes to the site, I mean, you can keep it as is,
Yeah.
and it can continue in its current state.
right,
But you can't make the situation more non-conforming. That's kind of a general rule of non-conforming uses.
right, but with the proposed structure, the red part, because it takes away parking, doesn't there need to be that parking that was removed, doesn't that,
It needs to be replaced somewhere else.
correct? So if
There's-
if there's a proposal that doesn't allow for that parking to be replaced, then doesn't that proposal, even though the building is fine, doesn't that proposal not make it able to be done?
But there is room on the lot. There is room on the lot to put additional parking. It just means it's got to be, the paved areas could be reconfigured to some extent.
Understood, okay.
And there are a couple of points on the, and I'm focused on the unnecessary hardship. And what we're supposed to do is to fill in the gaps on the ordinance where the enforcement of the ordinance would pose an unreasonable hardship on the property owner. And right now, what I'm seeing is there's not an unreasonable, I don't see an unreasonable hardship at this point. It's inconvenient. Is it perfect? No. But you could build that building in that location, on that lot, within the setbacks and make it all work. And I'm having a hard time to put it all together. You make a statement in here on criterion number 5 that literal enforcement of the setback code means 25-foot setbacks from Nichols Ave and 25-foot setback from Washington, rendering the lot unusable for the purpose of building. That's not the case. You can build on that lot. There's room to build it. You've shown us an orientation that works. What's the other one I saw? Yeah, and then in criteria 5B, 5B, you state, however, it is true the property cannot be reasonably used in strict conformance with the ordinance. A 25-foot setback would render the space unusable, especially since there's already a 25-foot setback on Nichols Ave. Well, you've demonstrated by showing us an alternative that there are alternatives available. It all depends on, for lack of a better term, your creativity is what I see with using the lot. I think there's plenty of options for you on that lot, and I don't see that we've got to rewrite the zoning ordinance in that specific spot from what it is. It says 25 feet. Those are the rules we have to work in. Henry?
Well, I would agree completely with you, and I just would reference 5B towards the end, where Mr. Mangan states that, in my opinion, this would constitute an unreasonable restriction on my land and an excessive hardship to me as a property owner. I just can't see that. I'm sorry. That doesn't ring true with me.
It's difficult to understand, but does it raise to the point of unnecessary hardship? James? Seem to be mulling something over.
So I know it's not our role to make proposals of where things can be put on, and I get that. It depends on the illness of the architect, I'm no engineer. I'll just lay that out there. I personally just don't see, with the confines that he has, it's just really difficult for me personally to see where the parking can be on the lot.
He has this whole other side of Nicholas.
You mean like over here, like on the other side of the building?
No. Where the tree is there, where the ash tree is.
That's in the setback.
If you rotate,
Oh, I see.
if you rotate it, you still got,
Okay.
you still got all this area, so. It could work. All right, any more discussion on our part? Steve?
I'd have to go to deny the application too. When we look at a hardship, we're talking about. I usually think of it as some sort of physical limitation or something that's inherent in the property, and I'm just not seeing it, so I'd have to vote no on those grounds.
So if we got, are we ready for a motion? Does anybody want to make a motion, please?
Can I ask another question?
Oh, absolutely.
I'm not ready for a motion yet. So I think, and somebody please correct me if I'm wrong, do we also take into consideration financial hardship?
We can.
We can. Okay, so in that case, do you have numbers that would say how much of a financial hardship doing something other than what your initial proposal is versus these alternatives that you're trying to figure out?
Well, what you're seeing in this alternative is, it's a much more straightforward construction project to build here as opposed to here. This red area here is where possibly the building could be located. So that's located squarely on pavement that I paid thousands of dollars to have put there for parking for my tenants. Directly behind that and towards the cedar tree is a recreational area that my tenants use. They like to sit there. They like to have their barbecue there. It's an area that's for them. I paid close to $2,500 to have pavers put in there and make it a nice little hangout area. There's a beautiful cedar tree there. If this is where I end up having to build, that cedar tree will be threatened because the roots will be have to be torn up. I have a very good contractor who said that probably would be the case. It'd be very hard to preserve that cedar tree, and there's not too many of those around. Relocating parking over here, if you're talking about a pretty good size parking space, you're talking thousands of dollars as well. And then to manage, because this is currently pervious ground, I'd have to figure out how to manage the water that's currently being absorbed by that space over there. So that's an additional expense to have maybe Sievert come out, check it out, figure out how to do all that. So it's, for me, and things are extraordinarily expensive right now. If I go forward with this at any point in time in the near future, it's going to be very expensive, and this will only add to the expense of it. So in my view, it's the cost to me in dollars and cents is more if it's here than it is here. And then there's other potential costs that are going to come along that I haven't anticipated, or I can't anticipate until I get an actual plan associated with this. And then there's the, just in terms of dollar and cents, it's a lot. I would say thousands, at least thousands.
One point I'd like to make is that you said that your alternate plan would result in, in displacement of some impervious soil. Your original proposed plan actually puts all of the building in an area that is not pervious at this point. So it would increase the impervious area significantly over what's already there. Now, you get the pavers out back, but pavers aren't considered impervious area. They're considered.
I'm sorry, could you back up? I missed your point.
Your original plan,
Yeah, with the blue.
the blue,
Yeah.
puts the building entirely into an area that's impervious. That's pervious right now.
Right?
So, right now, if you turn it 180, or the 90 degrees and to do the alternate plan, you're actually putting a majority of the building on what is impervious area already, with only a small piece in the pervious area.
Yeah.
So the impact on drainage and stuff in that area that's already impacted is less. And the pavers that you show out back there, you said that that's a pervious area. Pavers typically are not considered pervious areas. They have a percent impervious depending on the style of the pavers, but they don't allow water to percolate down through. So regardless of how you configure this, the alternative plan has less of an impact on the pervious areas in the area. We've already got some flooding going on down there. I mean, there was 1.5 feet of water down there last week before. The Nichols Ave was basically passenger own risk.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I sympathize to what you're saying, but I still don't see that we're at the point where we've got a significant hardship. You're proposing to build something new there, and we've got to play by the rules.
So even though it would, when you have a neighbor that's saying, please don't do this, when you have a beautiful tree that'll probably go away if I end up building there, if I have to build on top of existing parking, relocate parking, if I have to relocate a current recreation area, all that, completely unnecessary. If I get 9 feet, and that's not an unnecessary hardship, I don't know what an unnecessary hardship would be then.
Does it?
I mean, it's sort of, it's almost like if you, I mean, I get it that there's a law, you stick to the letter of the law, but I think it's a bad law. I mean, it's like, give me 9 feet. I mean, you would do more good by granting the variance than not. If it's just about maintaining the law, then I guess it is what it is. But if it's about
does the building have to be 18 by 27 to accomplish what you want?
Doesn't necessarily. That could be modified. It's just a plan right now. I don't know.
No, I understand that, and the thing is, we take our job very seriously over here. We're not here to legislate from the bench. The rules were made by the planning board, and they were voted on by the town, and we're trying to enforce that reasonably. And the idea of hardship, I mean, you can thank the state for that, but it's just, I don't see it rising to that point yet. Yes, you've got some financial implications with it. They're not really well developed at this point, so you're saying thousands, and I don't know what it is.
Well, I had an excavator come out, and first of all, it's very hard to get anybody to come, any contractor, anybody in this industry right now. And everything is very expensive right now. So he was supposed to give me an estimate, and he never got back to me, and that was weeks ago. So even with follow-up. So it's hard for me to get concrete numbers for you. at this time. I just know from the paving that I've done before in different areas, if it's good pavement, it's not the bad, crumbly kind of stuff. If it's really good, it's thousands of dollars, thousands, if it's good stuff. I do know that. And I don't know, yeah, I mean, if I get going on this, then, you know, George and Amanda over there with their, I mean, what am I supposed to say to them? You know, sorry, George. I don't know if that's even relevant. It doesn't sound like it is, but.
Henry?
Point of information, Mr. Chair, something I don't know. I don't know what the ordinance says about damaging healthy trees.
Doesn't say anything.
Doesn't say
No.
anything.
Is there nothing in there?
No,
Not-
we're wood bushes over here.
Sorry?
We're wood bushes. We just clear cut, no. I'm just kidding.
All right.
It doesn't, this is not subject to site plan review by the planning board because it's a pre-existing non-conforming situation.
Okay, so I-
But we can't make the lot more non-conforming.
point of
So you need to
information,
keep that in
Yes.
mind.
In this building, this 27 by 18, that could be smaller. I'm not committed to that. That, I could shrink that down.
I don't think that helps. What changes?
Nothing's set in concrete right now for me. I would actually maybe like to make it a bit
How many
smaller.
parking spaces do you need to replace? 2?
Yeah, it would probably be 2 or 3.
With your-
2
with-
probably.
Yeah, with your revised plan here, you can fit 2. You can fit 1 in the back and 1 over here on the
On
side.
Nichols Ave side of things.
Yeah.
On Washington
On
Street side.
Washington Street side, you can fit 2. You've got it. There's no hardship.
Well, I thought you couldn't. Parking with
You can't have parking in the front yard.
Yeah,
or
for
any of the
front
side
setbacks.
yards.
No,
That's
we're
it.
talking over here.
Right here, in this little
Oh,
sliver.
okay.
This,
This little sliver right here,
Like
right
this,
there,
this.
right here.
right there, and 1 right there. You can fit your 2 cars in. You don't have to back them up.
Does it interfere with the functioning of the other parking lot that's there?
No.
Does it make it viable? Does the circulation work within the existing parking lot? If you do that?
I would think it would make it better because you could park this way.
Can you show me, wait, I can't see what you're doing, I'm sorry.
This little sliver here would provide space for 1 car easily, and this would be 1 car as well.
So how many parking spaces are there, Mike, currently?
8.
Okay, so I think what Wayne is suggesting is that you could have space for 2 of the parking spaces
So as a result,
within the existing front,
So-
outside of the front setback on both sides.
the bottom line is I don't see a hardship because you can fit everything in here. That's what I'm getting at. I don't understand there's a hardship. I just can't go along with that. It's an alternative.
They're already using this space over here.
I know, but I'd like to see the layout of the parking,
Yeah.
that concept that Wayne is suggesting.
Well, we don't have it, so we adjudicate on what we've got in front of us, so the evidence
Right.
presented. Are we continuing the discussion, or are we gonna have a motion?
I'd make a motion if we unfortunately deny the application for a variance from section 32-87 setbacks requested by Michael Manigan.
Okay. Second.
And, okay. Do we have, what's the reasoning that we're gonna say we gotta have some kind of a finding of fact?
I think the finding of fact was go ahead.
It's your motion. I was gonna interrupt you,
No,
I'm sorry.
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Please do, you're the lawyer.
No, what I was just gonna say, for my purposes, I don't think it meets the hardship requirement.
Okay. And that there may be other alternatives
there-
that could achieve the same goal for the applicant.
Right.
Right.
So the motion to deny with the finding of fact that the material presented does not support criteria 5, and Mr. Mangan was able to present alternatives that met the intent, that met the,
Or achieve the goals
achieve the goals of the setbacks
without needing a variance.
without needing the variance. Is that fair?
I think that's what our discussion reflected, so yeah, I think that's fair.
Good summarization.
All right. We
Can I
have
ask
to do,
one question before?
absolutely.
So what, if we ended up denying this, what are the next steps then for him?
Then he has 30 days to appeal and bring in new evidence to us so we can reconsider. If he misses the 30-day window, he doesn't have recourse at Superior Court, does he?
No,
That's right.
it's a done deal.
So, if we deny, if he comes back in, we can either accept or deny the rehearing.
Or he could submit another application that's substantially different
Correct.
from what he
And
has
again-
presented here without having to go through the appeals process route.
Correct.
So you have a couple of alternatives, Mike.
Or you can apply for a building and
Oh, what?
permit
Building permit.
and meet all the setbacks.
Right, and then you won't have to come back to the zoning board.
Yeah.
So,
So you have 4 alternatives.
It's already on impervious ground, and that shouldn't be a problem for the groundwater situation. That's another question. Because that's what you said, if the building is, as situated, is already gonna be on impervious ground, then that shouldn't be an issue with respect to, water.
correct, it's not increasing the runoff.
So that may be a good thing,
Yep.
yes.
So, start down that end.
You all set, Jim?
I guess. Yeah.
He's
You wanna
having,
go first?
I'm just, no.
Okay. Al? Aye or nay? Oh, yeah,
he
right.
voted to deny.
We're doing, right, yeah. Steve?
Aye.
Aye.
What are my choices?
Aye or nay?
Or you can abstain, I mean, if you,
It's a crappy situation, that's all.
yeah.
Wayne was yours, aye.
Aye.
Based on our discussion, I have to go with I, but I
Agreed.
it stinks.
So the ayes have it, the request for variance is denied. I'm sorry.
Thanks for your consideration.
Did you take notes of what the alternatives are?
I'll
But-
probably just,
Okay,
I don't know, rethink things.
okay.
Thank you, though.
Okay, thank you, Mike.
Sorry, Mike.
All right. Well, that being done, we go on to the next item on the agenda, which is the request for variance from Chris Redmond. Variance from section 32-89 dimensions table requested by Chris Redmond to permit construction of a 16 by 26 bedroom addition to be 24.4 feet from the property line where 25 feet is permitted. The property is located at 67 Grant Road, tax map R4, lot 8, zone R1. Mr. Redmond, have all the notices been sent? We're
Yes,
all
all
set
of
with
the
that?
notices have been sent, Mr. Chairman.
Good evening. I have not been to this board before, so would you like me to just go through an overview of the project, or what's the best way to start?
Just give us
Sounds
an
good.
overview.
Sure.
and-
So I'm looking, this home is currently a one-bedroom home. I'm looking to continue living there and have my children come and live there, along with me, so I'm looking to add another bedroom. This property is very small, and I've got a septic tank system to the rear of the property, big hill to the right side of the property, front yard and hill in front of the house. And to the left is a very flat area where I have a existing walkout basement. The existing home and basement are not connected. There's not a stairwell. They raised the house up years ago and built a basement under it, but there's no stairwell. So some of my goals is to add a bedroom and add an interior staircase to get from the first floor down to the lower level. The left side of the property, I believe, is the only side that I can add on to. And I'm going for, or trying to build a 16-foot wide project for a lot of reasons. One is to accommodate this staircase in a way that doesn't take up the whole, the whole area of the new addition. And so you can see on your plan, I have a section drawn. You can see there's a landing and a staircase going down, I guess from left to right from the basement up to the first floor. That's one of the reasons the 16-foot dimension is desirable. The other one is just every concrete contractor, every framer knows that if I build this 16 feet wide instead of 15 feet, 5.5 inches, causes a lot of issues, wastes a lot of materials. So that's why I'm going for a 16-foot wide project. It'd be a lot easier to build this 15 feet, 4 inches, and not have to come here, for a variance, clearly. So I'm well aware of that. So just quickly, I guess, going through the criteria. Criterion 1, I feel like this architecturally doesn't take away at all from the surrounding community, and would have no adverse, building this project the way I have it designed would not have any adverse effect on the public interest. There's only, for criteria number 2, it's being proposed on the only part of the property that I can add on to. There's 2 extremely small triangles, about 7 inches by 5 inches, and that it's crossing over this. I think it's shown on, it's very small, but I think I handed in a blown-up version of the site plans. You can, just because if it's not blown up, you can't even see it. Criterion 3, the properties surrounding this property are all between 2 and 4 bedroom homes. I'm hoping to turn this from a 1 to a 2 bedroom. By granting this variance, I believe substantial justice would be done. Criterion 4, I believe granting this variance would only have a positive impact on the values of the surrounding properties because it will turn this property into a viable home for a small family. And I was told to do both of criterion 5. I think option B speaks the most, I guess, strongly to me because of the special conditions of the property, including the slope and the very small lot size. I believe there's no way to create a home on the property that is suitable for my family under strict conformance with this setback. Yeah, I will say that my overarching feeling is just that building it in this way doesn't impact the neighbor to my left. Their home is on the, it's a very large lot, and their home is, God, 200 yards at least away from this part of my property, and I don't think there's any adverse. And actually, both homes are located quite a distance. There's not a home within 100 yards of this, and yeah, I don't think that, this project has any adverse effects on any of my neighbors. Are there any questions I can answer?
If you're done your presentation,
Yep.
I'll open it up to,
Okay.
to the public for comment.
Yes, sure.
Mrs. Rubino,
Thank you.
if you've got something to say, we would love to hear you.
Well, a lot of men don't care about 6 inches, I do. You know? Yeah, I know. Because this is what it's boiled down to. He's probably wondering why I am here. I just have to protect my own property, and you do the same. I mean, this is what the council is here for and everything. No, there's only, I do know the history of that cottage, and the septic system, if you do the upgrade on it, does the septic system need to be upgraded to the degree of the units that you're installing?
No, ma'am. It's currently a two-bedroom, there's only one. It's a two-bedroom septic system design, there was only one in the home.
Okay, you're going to have to do more on the septic system?
No, I'm only adding one to, I'm enlarging the home from a one to a two, and the septic can already accommodate two bedrooms. There's only one currently, so I don't
Okay.
have to choose the
Well, I don't know what, because I'd hate to have the septic system going overboard. I got a large family living there, and it's one of the things I don't want to be smelling is someone else's sewer system, and we're not hooked up to anything to do with the city, the town. So it's one of my concerns.
Do we have a septic system on file?
I believe we do. It's shown on the plan that we provided, I believe.
Yeah, I could give you a copy and engineer researched it with, DES, so I do,
Okay.
I don't know if I have it with me, but I.
We probably have one in the office
That's
if you
fine.
wanted us to check that.
That's fine.
And
But
do you have a schematic or something how it's set on the lot? Which way are you going with this addition?
To the left.
You're going where you're parked,
Exactly.
that way? And that's not gonna be any kind of interference with your septic system?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's in the, I do have site plan.
Okay. And, you know, yeah, his addition is on the opposite side of the house from your parcel.
Okay. Yeah,
Yep.
That's the number
This
there.
is the septic in the rear.
I was looking in the notes to see if there's.
Look at that, they got a methane
you're
torch.
just going right over
It's a fine.
to its
No,
Cadoza's.
Yeah, but just right here, that little rectangle, exactly.
Look at
Right
this.
along the setback line.
It's only 6 inches.
I don't know, I'm laughing at you more than.
All right,
Everybody.
That was good, that was quick.
We have quotable quotes. This one's gonna go.
have we had any correspondence from the Cordozas?
No, we have not, Mr. Chairman.
I just needed to say what I needed to say, and,
Very good, and we appreciate your time.
well,
We got room for another alternate, you wanna come on in?
you wouldn't like me sitting there.
Oh, I think we can get over things.
Oh,
That's becoming.
good luck to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll give you the,
Are you satisfied with the information he presented you?
yeah, you know, again, we're talking 6 inches. You know, I'm not gonna cry
6
about it, but I
inches
thought
amongst
I'd make
friends.
his knees knock a little bit and scare him.
She's satisfied.
So,
Thank you, Mrs. Urbino.
and you're welcome. And just keep the kids' noise down, it's not.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a good night.
My goodness.
Oh, good. That's fun.
All right. I'll open it up to discussion with the board. I'll close the public input session,
The public is gone.
or the comedy open mic night.
Yeah.
I'm sorry out there. it's just,
That's okay.
she's a wonderful person.
She is.
And with that, I'll open up for discussion amongst the board.
Well, I don't have any problem with the application. I think it checks all the boxes that need to be checked. It drives me nuts that you have, I wish there was something in our municipal code, or maybe even the zoning laws in general, where you're talking about a matter of inches, that there would be some sort of administrative
Well, and
Leniency.
process you can go
There
through.
really
just
isn't.
But, and I know there's not, and I'm not saying anybody did anything wrong, Diane, I just,
No.
you know,
what
but,
strikes,
I appreciate, the application.
what strikes me is the fact that we're dealing with a 25-foot variance from some theoretical points on a stone wall.
That's
Yeah,
the
well,
problem.
well, that's the other
And
thing.
I know the engineer too, you think he could have thought.
Well,
Do that.
unfortunately, he probably found enough evidence to establish, I mean, I'm sure that there might be drill holes or something that he saw.
It's exactly what I thought too. How did you come up with this much?
Right.
Yeah.
And rocks can be moved too.
Yes.
Not that we're
I
suggesting
don't,
that's happening.
I don't have a problem. This is what,
Just pick them up and move them to,
I don't have a problem
I
with
know,
this.
because I hit my
All right,
husband's
well,
stone wall every night when I
Is there
go
any
into
more
the
discussion?
truck.
Can we get a motion?
And he has his finished. So it's easy.
Anybody want to make a motion?
I move to approve the application as submitted.
And with the
And
finding
that
of
the
facts.
finding of facts are the materials such as,
On which we base the decision.
yeah, that.
As
Give him a
presented by
hand.
the applicant.
Getting close, I'll get it someday.
You're doing good.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor. I need a second.
Second.
Mr. Zane? And he does.
Aye.
James says aye. I'll go aye.
Aye.
Wayne?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
Aye. It's a
Aye.
unanimous.
Yep.
So you have your variance. You can break ground tomorrow if you can find a contractor. You're welcome.
Okay,
Have a great
Enjoy.
night.
Have a good night.
bye, thank
Have you
you.
been in Newmarket long, or is this,
Yes, I live in, Riverbend Road.
Okay.
My girls are gonna remain there with their mom, and I'm gonna work on this house, and we're gonna have both of those homes, so.
all right?
Yeah,
Nice.
it means a lot that I can do this.
Well, thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks, Chris.
All right.
There you go.
That was the last item on the agenda. Is anybody got any new business to bring to this illustrious group?
Negative goes right, the pattern is full.
Yeah. With that being said, motion to adjourn is in order.
So moved.
All those in favor? Aye.
I seconded it.
Second.
Al did.
Thank you, Al.
Mr. Zink.
How are you?
8:06.